It says we're live.
Okay. Good morning. How are we doing? I've now managed to mute everyone in the Skype chat, and I can't unmute their microphones. Amazing. Why has that happened? While we figure this out.
Hello.
Oh,
Hello.
there. Oh, hold on. You've gone again. Talk for.
I can do it. I can do it.
Okay.
I can do it. Yeah.
And then, oh no, it's worked. It's all good. Yes. Real.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
I can't unmute Ben for some reason.
Come on, coffee. Come on,
Yeah,
coffee.
Oh.
Will, are you there?
I'm there. Yep.
Okay, cool.
I'm there. Yep.
Oh, there we go.
Hello?
Ben, you're back.
Hello?
Okay.
I unmute myself, I think.
Okay, cool. Right, good morning, everyone. We are back with another episode of Breakfast with Men. If the video screens randomly resize here, hold on, I've got to mute Paddy because Paddy's doing the delay monster thing. We're good. Okay, cool. So if the videos randomly resize, I've no idea what that's about, but we're fine. We'll figure it out as we go along. How are we doing, lads?
Good.
I'm just doing a quick status, let everyone know what we're doing.
Yeah.
And I'm about to use the brand new album cover as well.
Are you? The one that Will made for us today, yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here it
I
goes.
whipped it up.
Nice.
I whipped
Going.
it up.
So we've got we've got Paddy here as well today. So everyone say hi.
Hi, Paddy.
Everyone say hello, Paddy.
Hello,
Hello,
buddy.
everyone.
Hi, Paddy.
Thanks so much for having me on the show.
That's
Breakfast with Ben and Ben.
so there's loads of stuff we didn't get round to doing last week because of the technical issue. So we've actually got like a full hour today, and I want to. There's loads of stuff we can go over. I thought largely we could kind of pin today around all the rallies we've played over the years and just our experiences with our life and motorcycle clubs and things like this, because I thought getting Paddy on as well, we got a load of stories from the days in Germany before and all this kind of thing, so we just kind of go over some of those. But quite rightly, last week we never spoke about any of the songs we released or anything like that, so we can quickly chat about, hopefully you guys have been enjoying the track Out My Head from last week, and we've just released a track today called Hell Ride. So if anyone wants to say anything about those or the recording process, I remember Will didn't remember recording it, so Paddy, maybe you, the one we released last week, do you remember how badly we used to abuse the university for recording sessions back in the day?
This was Thames Valley University back in the day. Now it's the University of University of West London.
Yeah.
So when I lived in Ealing, just up the road from it, about 10 minutes drive from Jamie's house. Well, on a good day, if there was rugby, it took about 7 hours, which is usually the days when I try to get to Jamie's. So they had this. The idea was that we wanted to make a track that was kind of recorded up with tape and everything to get back to how AC/DC recorded tracks back in the day, and just get everyone together, play the flipping song, not sitting in front of everything chopping it up for hours, but just trying to capture everything live and like with kind of a raw rock sound. And the amount of hours we spent trying to get that flipping tape machine to work, and just being a useless person. I've become less useless over the years, but just the amount of buttons we pressed every button in that building to try and get sound out the desk and everything.
I remember, like, the one you were talking about was when we did that one-off track for your production project. It was during your masters, one of your
Yeah.
and
In the chapel.
in the vestry hall. Yeah, it was like it's one of the, was it like one of the only 2 or 3 studios left in the country that you can record a full symphony orchestra? It was like
that was it. Yeah.
That and Abbey Road or something were the only 2, and we did it all on tape. And then after we did that track, we did we just went, we used the studios on site in the university, and we recorded. I've got about 8 songs. We recorded nearly a full record, and we never put any of it out.
Well, in fact, we did a lot of the tracking for House on Fire in one of the rooms.
Yeah.
We did.
We did, yeah. No, we but we did so many versions of all of them as well. Like I don't remember why we never put anything out. Although, do you remember when we actually went there when we were recording the House on Fire EP, which we entirely funded that record from the tour of Germany that we did. We came home with all that money and just used it to pay to do the House on Fire EP. Do you remember when we were set up, and so we used Chris Coulter from Decimal Studios. If you need anything mixing or mastering or anything, get in touch with Chris Coulter at Decimal Studios. He's an absolute monster. He did a load of tracks for the Beast Reality album. In fact, he did like 3/4 of it. Anyway, so it was the first time we worked with him, and he used to bring all his own rig. Do you remember? He brought that flight case full of all his stuff, and he brought his own Mac, and we'd set up, and the guys who worked at the university, they were desperate to find something to punish you with, Paddy. Do you remember?
But basically, it was kind of like a cat and mouse game between us and the guys who worked there, wasn't it? Always.
Because
Yeah.
They
They tried to bust us for everything.
What was that?
Didn't they try and bust? They try to bust us for like all sorts of stuff. Didn't they? About food.
Do you remember what they got him for? They got Chris
The
because
pat
he was
testing.
the pat testing, but it was because he put his coffee on the desk. They got really angry. They like stormed in and they went, "Bloody hell, Paddy! Why do you always do this? Why have you made us do this to you?" And then they were like, "Right, you can't record here." And you went, "Why not? I've booked it." And they went, because none of his gear's pat tested." And we went, "Oh man." And then they went, "So unless you can get everything pat tested, you can't record today." And we're obviously paying for Chris's time. And I went, "I know, I've got a mate that does pat testing." And so I called him. I called up my mate Cash, and I said, "Cash, you couldn't do us a favour, could you?" And he drove out to Ealing. He pat tested all the stuff in front of them. They were sick. Do you remember how sick they were?
Yeah.
They were
the
like...
look on their faces. They were like they just wanted to completely ruin our day, and it just put us back about an hour.
Yeah. And when he did it, they went, Can we see your certificate?" Like as if he's gonna turn up with the machine and everything and not like know what he's doing. And he'd brought his pat test certificate with him. I mean, it wasn't like he was like sort of 52 at the time as well. It wasn't like he was ever gonna turn up and not be able to do it, or look dodgy.
Yeah.
And so it's we got the pat test done on the spot, and then they had to leave us alone. But it was quite amusing how much you annoyed them.
But I think it was kind of like they kind of liked me because I gave them something to do, or we all gave them something to do. And then it was kind of, well, the thing is, as well, it was quite mad because every time Ben came into a room, especially at that point, he'd take off his shirt, take off his shoes, and probably get out the biggest bag of biscuits that you've ever seen, or the biggest cake, and start eating it.
Strings and crumbs everywhere.
Yeah, he had to get as many calories into his body as humanly possible at any one time.
And do you remember that time when we went to King's Lynn for a gig, and like we'd just eaten a huge dinner at my house. We pulled up to get fuel, and Ben just sat and went, "Lads, I'm starving." He went in and he bought one of those like enormous chocolate cakes you get at garages, the ones that your nan had when you went round, those things. And he opened it and ate it like a chocolate bar. Like he literally opened the end of it and was just sat there going like this. And then he like, in spite of his massive dinner, half of this like whole family cake, he fell asleep. When he woke up, he was sitting on the cake, and he just like mushed the rest of it into the seat. We never got the stains out.
Was that always washed out?
I still get very hungry very quickly. I'm fine. Bang, go off a cliff. I've got to eat. And and I remember that I used to challenge myself to buy the most calories with the least amount of money.
It was like some supermarket sweep.
Yeah, I used to shop based on the calorific content of the food.
Not necessarily its nutritional value.
No, but how long I could go, how much energy I could burn.
It's a lot Jamie, when you call it energy, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Jamie, I've got on the chat, apparently you're quite quiet.
Oh, I can sort that out, mate. No problem. I can do that right now. I've just turned my mic up.
I'd say to anyone out there, just enjoy it while he's quiet, because he usually isn't.
Oh, yeah, well, you would say that. I can't see the chat for some reason on my phone. I thought I'd be clever and follow it.
I can see the chat.
Okay, cool. As long as someone can see the chat. If anyone said, "Oh, it's back. It's working now." Sorry. Yeah, we're all here. Compared to the other tone.
Shout out to my Velo and his dad are watching. We've got Stravko and Velo.
How we doing?
On there. The T-shirt. Yeah, that's from this year's Nickel Out Festival.
Yeah.
Nice.
Which was in Germany, which was a great adventure.
Yeah.
That was really good.
Cool. Oh, that's why my chat wasn't working.
Was it Oldenburg?
It was in
Oberhausen.
Oh, I can't remember which one. I
think it was on your T-shirt.
Oberhausen,
yeah. Oldenburg was.
How do you say the first one?
Yes. Was that the first Nickel Out?
No, that was the first one we did, I think.
Yeah. Right. Hopefully my mic's better now. Can anyone just confirm that? And we'll go from there. Perfect. So yeah, so where were we? We were at the university. We did those recordings. Oh, do you remember what else we used to do there? Do you remember every time we had a gig, Paddy would rent out the PA system, and we used to just drive all over the country with the university's PA system, and we'd always have to drive it back like Monday morning at 8 o'clock. So we'd get back.
Monday morning, 8 o'clock.
We'd have to go all around the country with this rig, and then we'd get back really late Sunday night or whatever time we get home, depending where we've been. And we had to always take the stuff back, and I can't believe none of it ever got broken.
Yeah. Well, but that all went out. And it was funny. So we had the guys who ran the studios. They were always out to get us. And then there was Sean, who was like the equipment rental that you could take off site. And he was like really calm, soft spoken, and nice. And he was just like, "Yeah, don't worry, it's all right. You're here now."
When we used to pack that stuff into the van, we'd drive to like North Wales. We'd go all over the country. It's just, it was with the stuff we did, and only you would have got away with it, Paddy. That's the thing. I have many skills, but I don't have your. I can't just get what you're just unreal. What you can get out of people.
I had a flashback now that you said North Wales. I had a flashback the other day, which is I think we came back from a gig going back to the hotel, and we're all quite drunk as usual. And I think we turned around or we walked about 5 meters on, and then we turned back to find out what Ben was doing, and he was about 6 meters up a lamppost.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you took your eyes off Ben, you'd shoot up a lamppost or take all his clothes off in the street or something.
I've got a great picture of that, actually. I'll tell you what, for everyone listening, I will put a picture of me up the lamppost on my profile.
Yes. That was when you were advertising a gig one day, wasn't it, outside my parents' house? You climbed up that lamppost.
Yeah, I did. That's the picture I've got.
Yeah, put it up.
So we threw up lamppost.
I remember. I thought you were going to tell an entirely different story then, Paddy, about walking back to the hotel in North Wales.
I don't know. I guess there's a few.
Oh god, there's one of them that we'd have to tell at night.
I don't think they're for a breakfast broadcast either.
No, definitely not.
We'll maybe do. We'll get Paddy. We'll get you back on another week, and we'll do like a nighttime one where we can kind of go into some detail about all that kind of stuff. What do you reckon?
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we'll
roast people out.
We'll put in the.
By that I mean when everyone's hopefully asleep.
Yeah. We'll do the X-rated stories, and we'll do that. Oh man, it's just so funny just starting to talk about this stuff. All these things just start coming back. So yeah, that was the chat. That was the just talking about those days a bit at the studio and stuff like that. What I wanted to try and get onto today was our introduction to motorcycle clubs, because none of us ride a motorbike as far as I'm aware, unless anyone's been learning.
Nope.
And,
no.
Lesson.
I just want to set up the scene for everybody.
I found the picture. There you go. There's me at the top of the lamp. I used to do that quite regularly.
I remember you did that in a small town in Wales.
I wouldn't try it now. I'd fall to my death, because the last couple of days I've been doing the old Joe Wicks PE session, and I arrogantly thought that, it was for kids, it'd be a waste of time. And I thought maybe even that I might need to do 2 a day or something. It'd be too easy. But after 30 minutes, I couldn't feel my legs anymore. I was doing like lunges and Spider-Man squats and that. And I'm just destroyed. I've got my legs held out straight. I have to lock my knees back so I don't fall over and collapse.
Oh dear. So yeah, I mean,
I'll be back to my lamppost climbing best soon.
He's brutal, Joe Wicks. I do his workouts as well. It's just do you think it can't possibly be that bad if you don't need any equipment and you don't need any space and you're just I said to Suze last night, Ben, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You watch him do it, doesn't matter how easy you think it's going to be. You always end up curled up in a ball on the floor wanting to be sick. by the end of it. It's just horrible.
Yeah.
So basically, back in the day, what some of the first kind of like more high profile gigs we did was for a dude called Pete Feenstra, who runs like he does kind of blues rock based stuff, and he rang one day because he was friends with Steve Sutton. We remember Steve Sutton, and
Yeah.
Sutton. He rang us and was like, "Look, boys, I've got an ex Lynyrd Skynyrd guitar player. Do you want to come down and open for him tonight?" And we were like, "Yeah." So we went down, and that was where we first met Skinny Molly, and we played with them for the first time. And we were like, "Oh my god, this guy! He used to play with Skynyrd. He's done these albums with them." And at the end of the night, there was this whole group of guys in there that came over to us and were like, "We're a motorcycle club. Do you want to come play our rally and all this?" And we were like, wow, this is going to be amazing. And this is where we first met the guys in Thick as Thieves, who have been really, really good mates of ours for, I can't even remember what year we started, but like would have been 12, 13 years ago now. And we've been mates with them all ever since. And remember they came over like, "Come do our rally." So our first taste of motorcycle clubs was the rally that summer that they had. And after that, we kind of got passed around a few motorcycle clubs. Does anyone have any kind of recollections of some of the different things that ended up happening? We can start with the UK ones.
Got such a hazy memory of those days, especially motorcycle clubs.
Do you remember the easily led clubhouse? The one where we had to load in through the garage door?
Is that the one where the guy literally opened a slot and he said, "Give us the password"? Is it that guy?
Probably.
That one?
Yeah, it sounds about right.
And he was small and skinny, but he looked vicious and violent, and you did not want to mess with this guy. I remember there was that one, and then he pretended that we weren't going to get paid.
Yeah.
At the end of the night. Do you remember that?
Yeah, exactly. Because we loaded in.
And we weren't going to argue.
He messed with us. He said, "We're not paying you."
And we just went, "That's fine. Are we okay to leave though?"
Yeah, he was like, "Oh, just kidding." He wanted to see our faces.
It's like From Dusk Till Dawn, isn't it?
Yeah.
Once you realise what you're in, you're just happy to leave, even if it means you're leaving behind the money you were promised.
Yeah, no, exactly. And we loaded in through that like garage door thing, and then they just chained it shut. So the stage, because it opened straight onto the stage. Do you remember? So you like literally walked the gear from the car park to the stage, and then they locked it all shut. And we were like, "Oh man, we hope this show goes well, because they ain't letting us out. If like, we can't really do very much about it." And it was like this bizarre Dusk Till Dawn thing, like you said. Yeah, like the downstairs was like a big living room, and upstairs like this mezzanine club with like the bar and pool tables and all this kind of thing. And apparently those parties used to go on. I remember Liz telling me that they'd go in there on a Friday afternoon and they'd come out on a Monday morning, and like no one slept, and it was just like 3 days straight of just chaos.
I remember it was a bit of a scary place. Scary place. Smelled funny.
But we played there again. I can't remember what the second occasion was. I think it was like Taffy's birthday or something. But yeah, we played for them a couple of times. And what happens, I'd say, like, because I don't know whether anyone else gets it. Does anyone ever speak to you and go like, "If I was a new band starting out now, do you have any advice for me?" Do any of you ever get those questions?
I don't get them that often.
You don't? Okay. Paddy, has anyone ever
I don't
asked?
teach anymore.
No, I just mean in general. Like people, I'll get messages on Facebook through people who are in bands now or starting bands up and stuff like this, and I'll get these messages going like, "I'd really appreciate it if you could give me some advice on what you were doing when you started out, or what to do if I'm starting a band now." And one of the things that I think was great for us was the second you do like one or two of these biker rallies, is you start getting passed around the different clubs. And it's really, really good for experience, because those crowds don't take, like, they know what they like as well. They don't kind of blow smoke. So you have to be really, really on it if you want to get any kind of respect from those crowds, and also to get a reaction from them as well. So you kind of, if they're stood there with their arms crossed like this, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're not good. It just means that they're still kind of assessing you. Like you can't go to those things and expect everyone just to go crazy. Because they take the music quite seriously. But once you've done one, if you're good, they'll pass you on to the others, and you'll get passed around all these different clubs, and it's just the best experience for a young band to go out and get, you know, like in front of a big crowd, but also get passed on to others. I mean, like through Thick as Thieves was the first ones we met. We did the Easily Led. We met the National Chopper Club through them. We met the Black Saxons. So we went to Germany. We met the LA Thunder guys. And all, like, you just get passed around all these rallies, don't you? Like where all the clubs go, oh, you know that band you had? Who are they? We want to get them to come and see us. So I want to hand over to Paddy. Can you tell us about when you began talking with Sven from the Black Saxons and how we ended up playing in a forest in the German-Russian border?
Yeah, so that was the Black Saxons. We spoke to them at the Tat Summer Rally one year, right?
Yeah.
So there was Sven and the guys from the Black Saxons in like Hoyerswerda in Germany.
Yeah.
And we went over there and we tied it in, and they were really accommodating because we were booking this tour of Germany, and they let us tie it in with their summer rally.
Yeah.
And
That was LA Thunder as well, though.
Yeah. So the actual rally we played at was LA Thunder.
so
But it was.
there were two.
Go on.
There were two, weren't there? There was one when we played inside the clubhouse.
Oh, that one. Yeah, no, hang on.
Yeah.
No, that was the Black Saxons rally in Bischofswerda, wasn't it? Or Hoyers? Which one was which?
Hoyerswerda.
Hoyerswerda was
Hoyerswerda.
Hoyerswerda's the LA Thunder because it had the cool red T-shirt with the skull.
I've
the
still
ancient
got
way.
that.
Yeah.
And
Still
yes,
got that. And I remember the guy that came up to me and he literally just took his T-shirt off and handed it to me and said, "Here, this is yours." And I was like, "Thanks." And in return, I just had to go and get him one of our band shirts, and that was it.
We all got shirts.
And washed it, and I still wear it to this day.
but that was the outdoor rally, wasn't it?
Yeah, but we did two outdoor.
Yeah.
Do you remember the other outdoor one, which was the Black Sax? You're thinking of the day after the rally where we were in the clubhouse like all day. But the night before
Maybe,
was.
yeah.
Do you remember the one where it just didn't stop raining? It hadn't stopped
Yeah.
raining for about 5
Oh.
days.
Oh.
Yeah.
And we slept in a
was-
shed with the lights didn't work.
That's the one.
I can't believe you didn't get
Yeah.
electrocuted.
Yeah.
So we
It was
turned
so
up.
dangerous.
We turned up at the rally. So we'd been driving across Germany to get there, and it was absolutely
Bad Schandau.
bad. Will, I don't want to go to bad Schandau. I want to go to good Schandau. It was really weird. So we turned up, and it was an outdoor swimming pool, wasn't it? It was like, and they'd covered the pool over, and it was they covered the pool over. It was in the grounds, and it was absolutely chucking it down. And we looked at the stage, and they had a tarpaulin over the stage, like a roof, and what was happening was it was raining so much that it just sagged and sagged and sagged, and their way of clearing it was they had a 2x4, and they'd run up to it and bat the bottom of the thing with a 2x4 to knock all the water out. Do you remember? And then they'd be like, "Oh, that'll do now. That's fine." And we were like, "Are we playing on that?" There was like a rip in the tarpaulin at the top. And
Because of the 2x4.
because the yeah, and there was like a waterfall in front of the drums, so we kind of pushed all the amps to the back so they were behind you, and then like when we turned around, all we could see in front of Will was just like constant waterfall coming out the ceiling, and we were just like, there's no way we're going to survive without getting electrocuted here. This can't be this is no way that we're going to survive. Hold on, Taffy's in the chat. That bulge of water over the stage was frightening. It was terrifying. And the thing was,
It was really bad.
it was one of the best paying gigs on that tour. And we were like, well, if we don't do this, we literally haven't even got money to put in the fuel tank to go and do the next gig. So we have to do it. Because we turned up, and then all the Thick as Thieves guys were there. Do you remember? Like Taff, Tanya, Lenny was there. I can't remember who else was there.
Yeah.
Damien, Taft's brother, was there.
Yeah, Damien.
And we played this show. Do you remember that? Like, because usually at these rallies you've got like the beer tent, but this was the only sort of dry place. So there was about 100 meters between us and the people watching because it was so wet, and they were all just crammed in.
Yeah. So we had like no audience in front of us. With like water just streaming through the ceiling of the stage. I do remember trying to peer through this waterfall, looking at you guys, and I kept looking up and seeing the bulge above my head, and I was thinking, if that rip gets any bigger, I'm gonna just get completely taken out.
Do you remember that group that just started mud wrestling? Like they just went.
Yeah.
There's
It's like mud moshing.
Yeah. They were just like rolling around in it. And yeah, who's it? Oh, Len.
Was that where we all turned up starving hungry and we were given this strange soup?
Yes. Yeah.
And I mean, we were ever so grateful because obviously a lot of effort had been put in to make this vast quantity of soup for all these people, and it was, it was free to us and that. But it's really weird. It was like oily water. You get those things as a kid, and it's like an egg timer. It's got water in it. It's got oil in it, and you tip it up, and the oil falls through the water, and it spins little wheels and stuff. The soup was like that, water with oil in it, and then some like shredded meat.
Yeah, that's a good breakfast.
I couldn't have told you what animal it was from.
Big Lenny's in the chat. He said, "I remember it only rained once from Thursday to Tuesday." So we did the show. And
we got Nickel Out Festival. Did we shout them out?
Yeah, I know. Marcus. Hello, Marcus. How are we doing? I enjoyed the
we
Sunday.
got Rixie, my student Rixie. Morning, Rixie. Morning to the Rixes, the Rix household.
We did. So we finished the show, and we went to. They showed us where we were going to sleep. So Will alluded to this earlier. We went into this like shed. I think it was one of the changing rooms for the swimming pool, and there was.
That sounds too glamorous, man. No, I think it was literally. I think it was a tool shed with beds in it.
Do you remember beds? They were sun loungers.
Yeah, there was sun loungers, and mine was completely. I remember mine was completely broken. The springs had gone, so I just went.
There's a great picture of that somewhere.
And yeah, your straps had ripped on that one. Yeah. Oh man, it was freezing cold. It was July, but it was absolutely freezing. And do you remember like Ben was like Bear Grylls? He was like, lads, what you got to do is take all your clothes off because they're wet, and you put your dry clothes on, and then you get up in the morning and you put your wet clothes on again. And then we were like,
that's exactly right. Survival.
Do you remember the van sunk into the grass overnight and we couldn't get it away? We had to get them to dig us out with planks of wood.
More 2x4s.
Yeah, because the van had sunk into the ground. And
I remember. Oh, man! I remember that shed was so dark. We couldn't see our hands in front of our faces. It was that we had feeling our way around.
Yeah.
Why can you all remember more than me?
Why do you not remember any of this, Paddy?
I remember bits and pieces. I remember it rained a lot.
Probably because you had more of what they rolled up in our money.
Yeah.
As a bonus.
I didn't have any money.
No, you had what was in the middle of the money.
Yeah.
That's for our late chat show.
Yeah, late show. So they dug us out the next morning. I mean, to be honest with you, I don't remember much about the gig other than trying to look round at Will and going, oh, for God's sake, I just can't see anything. Or like if I wanted to go, like usually in guitar solos and stuff, I like going over to Will and having a little groove. But I was just like, I'm not even walking under that to go to Will. I just leave him where he is. It'll be fine. And the next morning,
I remember being genuinely frightened of being electrocuted.
Yeah.
And I did get a large zap from a venue in North London. I remember that mic gave me such a welt. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do, because it was doing it
and
to all of
us.
us.
And the bang over the PA.
Yeah. was really
It
bad.
was horrendous.
That was after this as well, right? And like,
But I can't imagine how bad it would have been if it had come through that water, all that water everywhere. It would have been in real trouble, I think.
yeah, it was
big time.
horrendous.
Yeah.
So
We survived.
they dug us out the next day. If by the way, guys, if Ben just gets up and walks off, he's on dad duty this morning. So he's got Ivy next door. She's 3, and I think everyone understands how much 3-year-olds need attention. So he's backwards and forwards, but he's with us. So they dug us out the next morning, and like Lenny says down here, he goes, "I enjoyed the Sunday at the Saxons clubhouse drying out." And we met the Black Saxons at their clubhouse. We drove down there, and it was super early in the morning when we left, and we got to their clubhouse like about 9 or 10, I think, in the morning by the time we got there. And this was their like haven, the legendary Saxons clubhouse, which is the one.
Awesome.
This is what you're thinking about, Paddy.
Yeah.
I know you think we played a gig there in your head, but we didn't.
No, I remember that we just hung out there. We had like an all-day party, and we did the thing with the mallet.
No, that was at the LA Thunder one.
That's the Hoyerswerda.
Yeah, that was in Hoyerswerda.
Right.
The mallet.
Now I know why Paddy doesn't remember that day.
And the motorbike.
No, that was Hoyerswerda as well.
All right, okay.
The Black Saxons one was where you were really, really hammered, and you decided at like 4 in the morning you were going to DJ. Do you remember like climbing into the DJ booth?
No.
All we did was played songs all day and ate. Like, do you remember the Saxons rang the kebab shop at like 10 in the morning and were like, we need 50 kebabs. And they went round and got the guy out of bed. They were knocking on his door going, we need you to open your shop and make us 50 kebabs. And they turned up with like a crate of kebabs and about 3 crates of beer and a crate of something else. And they just handed out all this food, and we were sat there all day playing. We had the acoustic guitar with us that we took for some bizarre reason, and we were just playing songs in their clubhouse all day. Like, it was just the longest day of playing music and eating.
And they had this really spicy sauce. They had this really spicy sauce, which was actually suitable for industrial cleaning.
Yeah.
So, and then Ben went to the toilet or something, and I put a bit of it just on the rim of his beer bottle.
Yeah.
And do you remember that?
Yeah.
And you kind of came back out of swinging your beer, and then you looked at me and you just said something something.
Yeah. So we had this is Lenny in the chat again. I enjoyed the guitar sessions, Paddy playing and singing Irish folk songs, Ben playing blues, and Jamie playing good old rock and roll. And we just did that all day, and we ate kebabs and we drank beer, and Will was industrially performing other actions, and
yeah, I remember.
and we
crashing motorbikes.
No, it was another day.
All right, fair enough.
Why do you? And then, do you remember? Actually, I think it was one. Do you remember the evening in the Saxons clubhouse? I think Will, was it you or Paddy, went to get into bed, and you accidentally found you'd got in bed with a German man who'd been just like silently passed out.
I don't remember that. I don't think that was me. That sounds like a Paddy thing.
Definitely a Paddy thing.
I don't remember.
No. So that like, I will say as well, like when you get into these scenarios where, because usually to kind of be to be a, you know, in one of these clubs, you have to go through, you have to be a lifelong motorcycle rider. You need to spend a lot of time with these people before you can kind of get into their inner circle, unless you're in a band and they want you at their rallies and stuff. So for us, it was just a completely different like world that we had never been in, and it was just so new and interesting, like going to these things and seeing what goes on at these kind of things. It's like, you know, it's like, I don't know, it's like just like mostly it's people that have been friends since they were kids that just go away and just like have these crazy weekends away together and stuff like this. Obviously there are the bigger runs, but actually I kind of have less like kind of stories.
I mean, you get to meet so many characters and like really skilled people. I mean, because like some of these guys are like incredible mechanics and have done like amazing things to their bikes, and can like tell you about, you know, mechanical stuff. And and they're just really good to chat to. And also these clubhouses that they've made, like the inside of them, the bars they've put up, and all the interior, they've all done it between them and the skill sets that they have, so they share all their skills for free within their group. And I mean, you wouldn't know like those bars were even there. It wasn't like a clubhouse that had a sign outside saying clubhouse. It just looked like an empty industrial unit, and you know, you'd open up a shutter or go through a door and down a little corridor, and you turn into a room that was like a great big room with a stage and an amazing bar and all fully stocked and everything.
Yeah.
And it was just out of this world. It's like living in a film, wasn't it?
Yeah, amazing stuff. We did. Yvonne's in the chat. Hi, Yvonne. How you doing? We went to. I actually have less kind of really cool, funny stories from the bigger rallies, which tended to, I think, just because there was so many people. So some of the much bigger National Chopper Club rallies and oh no, hang on, no, that's a lie. Do you remember the time you jumped off?
I've got a story from the Chopper Club. Isle of Wight. Well, I decided it'd be a good idea, you know, my love of climbing, to climb up an 8-foot speaker stack.
Yeah.
And then I had no other option but to get down and other than to jump off it. And when I landed, because it was all set up in a field for the festival, it was actually on the Isle of Wight festival ground, wasn't it, that it was set up on? And where I hit the ground, I must have hit an uneven bit, and my right ankle just went right over.
It was in a hole,
and of course,
wasn't it? You landed your right foot in a hole.
Yeah, my right ankle went right over. And I, of course, the band's still playing. They don't know anything's wrong. I'm in a heap on the floor. And so I've got a guitar. I've got a strap, but I have to hold the guitar steady. So I'm down to 2 limbs on one side. I'm going to hobble back onto the stage. I had to take my guitar off and put it on the stage like that because the stage was shoulder high for me to climb up. and then I had to like this back onto the stage.
I remember you looking pale.
And then I got up and I hopped, and we had one more song to play, and I got through the song. And when I'd finished, I went over and I leant on the drum kit, and Will had to grab me like that because I was starting to feel like sick because I knew something really bad had happened to my ankle. And he's dragged me off to the side, and the festival paramedic turned up. And he said I'd have been better off if I'd broken it, because apparently, like what I'd done to all the soft tissue in there was bad, and it was bad. It took ages. It took months to heal properly. Absolutely months.
But do you remember you were the only one insured to drive the van?
Oh yeah, I had to drive us all the way home. You had to carry me to the van.
The next morning, because I think we stayed there that night. The next morning when we were trying to get food, I remember me and Paddy had to carry you around the site. You had an arm around each of our shoulders, and we actually had to carry you around because you literally couldn't walk. And,
no, exactly. It's horrible.
Paddy, do you remember the Bamanella song?
Oh, Ebamonella. Ebamonella fatido. Was it that?
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, because you'd seen the word lemonade written down. You were still drunk, and you were like, imagine if the little lemonade was written backwards. It would be Ibamanel, and then you start singing this song about Ibamanella, and Ben's in agony, just wants to go and be sick in the corner.
Ebamonella, Ebamonella latido, Ebamonella, Ebamonella latido.
I'm amazed you remember that.
Yeah, he doesn't remember any of the gigs, but he remembers this most annoying song in the world.
Pigeon song. What about the pigeon song?
Oh yeah, sorry.
Paddy, when you do the pigeon song, you're gonna have to like grab a banjo or something for that.
I've got this here.
Why have you made him do this? This isn't going to end.
We're on a diversion. But this was the second most annoying song.
I'll do it quickly. Pigeon, 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 pigeon in the sky. Pigeon, pigeon, I watch you as you fly. You got a 24-hour suitcase waiting on standby. Pigeon, pigeon, pigeon in the sky.
I remember when You genuinely. What was it, Owen? Owen said about that
That's
song.
the best song I've ever written.
No, what did Owen say about it?
It's the best song I've ever written because it's so short.
Do you remember what Owen said? Because you tried to compare it to Bob Dylan, didn't you, Paddy?
Probably. Yeah. What did he say?
And Owen was just like, no, that's a false argument. Dylan would never have written anything like that because Dylan was good and that song's just complete shit. Hey, we got Ivy there.
We have.
So
You might have noticed that I've been coming and going. It's because I'm on dad duty today. My partner Susie's at work, and me and his team, Daddy and little one today.
Aww.
So I will be in and out of
That's all.
camera shot. In fact, she's very much awake now. She was just doing a sort of watch telly and chill for a bit this morning.
Hey, Ivy.
And I now need to play. So I'll be hollering in the background.
Okay.
It's all good. Paddy, did you do the pigeon song?
He just did it. You missed
I
it.
did the pigeon song.
Oh, I missed it. Oh, brilliant.
I'll spare the audience a second round.
Right, I'll have to flick through the video when it's uploaded, and I can enjoy that.
It will be. So for people that were that Taffy says that song's gonna stick in my head all day now. Don't encourage him, Taff. Don't encourage him.
It's like John Fogerty does a gig down the Early Learning Centre.
Yeah.
Do you know what? Maybe because it's a 20-second song basically. Maybe I could make a vinyl version, and the record would be like this size.
Like a mini disc of vinyl.
It should just be on repeat.
And now's the time because the oil price is so low.
Yeah, true. It is. So while Ben's off doing that, I wanted to bring up the Hoyerswerda rally, which was at LA Thunder Motorcycle Club, which was out near the really, really far out East Germany. And it was the one where we did the show and everything was fine, except for, do you remember where we slept? Do you remember the setup, Will?
I remember it being quite a nice setup, that one. Wasn't it it was like a shipping container on stilts.
In a tree.
In a tree. It's like a helicopter had dropped one. And it landed in a tree. And they were like, just keep it there. We'll put bands in it.
Yeah, it was like a porter shed in a tree, and it had bunk beds in it. And we played the show.
Nice.
The show was great. We played the show. We hung out with them all afterwards. And then I remember distinctly being woken up in the morning by someone just deciding they were going to play your drums.
Yeah, because it was a beautiful evening and a beautiful day the next day, so it was completely dry. So the outdoor stage was all left set up, wasn't it?
Yeah, and we
And
were
then
like,
some drunk biker decided that he was going to have a little drum lesson by himself.
Yeah.
On the stage.
Yeah.
And my snare drum sounded. I remember we both woke up to it, and you went, "Your snare sounds amazing." I was like, "Yeah, sounds incredible."
Yeah.
I wish he'd shut up now.
Yeah. So we got up that morning. I remember my dad said, because he'd got up in the middle of the night for a pee or something, and he was like 6 a.m. or something, and he went down, and these guys were still at it, and they were like, "Good morning, mister, you will drink now." And my dad's like, no, it's fine, I'm driving later, thanks. And when we all got up, they were doing all these games, weren't they?
Yeah, hangover games.
Well,
most of them
Not hangover
included
games.
breaking your nose.
yeah. So there was this enormous dude called Reiner, and he'd been drinking for about 3 days, I think, and he
It was huge.
He was massive. Do you remember that they brought like this full beer barrel, the beer keg. They brought the whole beer keg, and he just lifted it up and started shoulder pressing this beer keg. He did they were all clapping him and cheering him while he did it. And then when he'd finished, he pointed at us and was like, "Right, you guys do it."
And I think if we failed at any of these challenges, we had to drink. I think that was the idea, wasn't it?
And to be fair,
Obviously.
we failed at all of them.
Oh my god.
Paddy tried to pick the barrel up and just fell over, and the barrel landed on him. and everyone was just like wetting themselves. And then they brought out the
Mind
Warhammer.
you,
Go on.
can I add to that?
Yeah.
Probably I've tried to lift the barrel, fell over trying to do it, and I had cowboy boots and leopard print pants and my arse hanging out.
Yeah, obviously standard. I mean, it was a good effort. Then they brought the Warhammer out. Do you remember the game with the Warhammer?
Yeah, that was quite scary.
They so someone else explain it. Will or Paddy, go for it.
Cool. Well,
Do you remember?
I remember the Warhammer game being that enormous. Well, Warhammer basically is absolutely enormous thing. Was it made of wood or a mixture of wood and metal or something like that? It was quite.
I think it had a metal head.
A metal head. Yeah, it was a serious piece of equipment. And this
forged.
guy, Miner, put it out the full length of his arm like this. And then you have to slowly tip your hand backwards. And you had to stay like in complete control of the hammer. Out like this. You had to just gently rest it on your nose.
Yeah.
Wasn't that it? Yeah. And then your arm would be shaking. So his arm was shaking, and he's a massive guy. So his arm was shaking. He was just trying to control this hammer, and he did. He just gently rested it on his nose. And then he was like, right, you do it. Everybody has to do it. And apparently you're not allowed to, you have to like, if you lose control of the hammer and your muscles give up, you have to keep your head in the way. If you move your head, then you had to like down a whole load of this really harsh German spirit that they'd made themselves or something.
Yeah. And then
remember.
Do you remember the next morning? It was that morning, and then they went, "Oh, you come and look at all the bikes," because the bikes were kind of parked out the back, and they took us out to look at all their choppers, and we were like, "Oh yeah, these bikes look sick," and then this one dude goes up to you and goes, "Yeah, do you want to sit on my bike?" So Will goes, because Will, I think you've always wanted to be a biker at heart.
Yeah, I've always wanted to ride a bike. I think deep down, yeah, you're right. He definitely, he sort of saw my eyes go, ooh, look at these lovely bikes. And I was looking at one in particular, but he was like, oh, come and ride I've got this other chopper. It's like a training chopper. It was quite powerful. It was quite big, but it was like a training one-ish. And then he was like, do you want me to give you a bike lesson? And considering we're all hammered, completely hammered. This guy's absolutely smashed. I'm sort of hungover and then drinking again just to kind of get over the hangover.
We had been sick with each other arm in arm that morning.
Well, you and I?
Yeah, shouting, we're from Essex, like that.
Oh, yeah. We were like, yeah, I remember that. We're from Essex, this is how we do it in Essex.
And then we went off to do the hangover games.
Yeah. Oh,
and then we carried on drinking this eggnog stuff. It was like this, I remember this creamy spirit or something.
So he goes to you, bear in mind, just to clarify this, Will, even to this day, and this was like 10 years ago, to this day, can you and have you ever ridden a motorbike?
No.
Right, okay. So what did he then ask you if you wanted to do?
He asked me if I wanted to ride his motorbike. But I was like, I don't know how, mate. I don't know what I'm doing. He was like, don't worry about it. I'll teach you. And he had quite a gruff voice. He was like, blah, 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 blah. And he was speaking sort of like, English obviously isn't his first language as well. So he's sort of like conferring with his part, with a mate of his, conferring with a mate of his, trying to find out what the things on the bike are called in English. And they were trying to like explain this. So anyway, I sat on the bike and I was like, oh, this is very nice. Someone take a picture. And then he comes over and starts it up. And I was like, I could feel it. Oh my God, I could feel this thing just, it was absolutely like, it was like gnarly. It was a gnarly engine. And I was thinking, oh, Jesus Christ. And he started revving it. He grabbed my hand and he was revving it like this. And I was absolutely bricking it. And I was trying to listen to him. He was like, right, what you want to say? I think he put one of his mates, I think. Sorry, I'm trying to piece this together from my vague memory now. One of his mates grabbed my other hand and squeezed the clutch. And he had my other hand and was revving the bike with it. and they were both talking to me kind of at the same time. One of them was going, right, you have to keep the revs up too high, but just a little bit. And the other guy's going, right, I'm going to let go of your hand. I was like, no, don't let go of my hand. And then, I remember the guy let go of my revving hand, and I revved it really way too high, obviously, because I've never ridden a bike before. And the other guy just let go of my other hand, dropped the clutch on this thing. I went, boom! I went up like a rocket, and I wobbled. Went,
it was brutal. The bike spun out, like literally it kicked out from underneath you. Like you kind of did a wheelie. The bike flew out from underneath you. You landed on the floor, and then the bike landed on top of you.
Yeah. The engine burnt my leg.
And then the wing mirror fell off.
Yeah, bits came off it. And he was like, oh, shit. And everyone was like, you okay? I was like, yeah, I'm fine. But how about your bike? And he was like, I'll be fine. I'll fix it another time. I think, one of his handlebars got quite messed up.
I was sitting there going, oh my God, what have we done to this dude's bike? And then he was like, your punishment. You will drink whiskey with me. And he drags you back to the bar and makes you drink.
Yeah, he put his arm around me and dragged me back. Well, that was hilarious. I mean, Gil just couldn't stop laughing at me solidly for about 15 minutes.
Steve Little in the chat says, I'm an ex-instructor if you want lessons, Will. Steve, I really wouldn't let him anywhere near a bike if I was you based on that.
I would love to learn with you, Steve.
You're getting loads of offers of lessons here. It's amazing. You'll get Taff to teach you. Steve Little can teach you. I think so. I think most of those stories are the kind of family friendly ones. I know there's like tons of after hours stories we can tell about all these things, but I think doing those rallies they really toughens you up as a young band, and also it gives you so many cool opportunities to kind of go off and see different environments you wouldn't see, and obviously all different parts of the world that we've been to do rallies and stuff. It's just it's a really cool. I guess to some people it's a little bit kind of esoteric, but it's a really cool, interesting world to get into. And obviously mostly it's just people that want to have fun. So there's like a serious amount of drinking and banter and all this kind of thing. But there's some of the things we ended up getting ourselves into there when we were kind of young and inexperienced. I mean, like, my abiding memory, if someone says rally to me, is that story from you, Will. I just remember standing there watching this bike fly out from underneath you and land on top of you, just thinking, geez, what have we done here, boys? What have we actually got ourselves into?
I'll tell you what, it puts hairs on your chest. Doing gigs for bikers, hanging out with bikers, it gives you lifelong friends. If you're a green band, it puts hairs on your chest. It gives you stories. It gives you scars, and it makes you it makes you grow up as a musician and as a person, I think. And it just warms your heart and makes you giggle. It makes you good pub stories.
So I was going to say we're close to needing to wrap up, but I wanted to just I needed to do a couple of announcements about things. Number one, I want to bring to everyone's attention, if you do follow the Legends of Rock Festival and their page on Facebook and YouTube, I want to just say that Eddie, who runs the festival, he's really had a great idea during this period to try and help out some of the musicians. Obviously, where we're all locked in, it's a bit, musicians can't really make a living. So I want you guys, if you're watching, to check out the Legends of Rock Facebook page. There was a post on there the other day. What it is all the musicians from the community are going to get together. Everyone's going to record. It's not like a live stream gig, because I know a lot of people are doing those, but it's a heartfelt, meaningful song for whatever background it is. And people are recording them, and what they're going to do, going to put them all out through the Legends of Rock page and through the YouTube channel. And it's going to be like a PayPal donate option where it all goes into a central fund, and then as and when these musicians feel that they really need some help, there's going to be a central pot of money to help bail these musicians out that can't work. So I want everyone to go check that out. There's a brilliant version of Songbird by Fleetwood Mac up this week. There'll be something else next week. So go and check that out for a start. It's just a great scheme by Eddie, as usual, kind of thinking ahead and trying to figure out ways to do stuff. So thank you for that, and go check that out. What I also wanted to do, there's a lot of these, I know, like, WhatsApp and Facebook at the moment are just like meme central, and I mean, I can't. My phone is going off 150 times a day. One of the things going around Facebook at the moment is everyone has to post their 10 albums that influenced them the most. Have we all got those come through? Have you seen these?
Yeah.
So what I thought we could do would be to make a little feature that will take like 5 minutes, where each week we all list quickly one of our most influential albums. We do one a week at the end of the show, and just talk about why it influenced us, why it was important. And I know I'm dropping this on you guys now, but I wanted to see your reaction. So, Paddy, why don't you go first? Tell us your most influential album and why. Or if anyone has an answer, jump in.
Well,
I've got an answer.
Go on.
I'd say Sgt. Pepper's Beatles.
Okay, go for it. Why?
The whole thing is like a show. This story, it's like a concept album. The cover is absolutely great, and it has all these people that, and it's a bit like Where's Waldo? You can kind of go, that's that person, and it just brings you through this amazing kind of story of different types of songs. Yeah, I think it's amazing.
So, how old were you when you heard it for the first time? What sort of impact did it have on you?
I think I probably heard it a few times or heard songs from it before I realized what it was. So then when I heard the whole thing together, it was like, all right, so this is where that belongs, and this is where that belongs, and this is the different characters of this album coming together.
So do you think, did it have a massive influence on you musically, kind of going forward in terms of songwriting, or was it just one of those things that it just had an impact on your life in general?
I think it's really hard to write in that way, to write songs in that way, right? It's kind of like a concept album with lots of different kind of things, from kind of groovy rock stuff to like really weird trippy stuff.
Wow, there's a lot of hate in this.
Cool. Okay, Will, what was your answer?
I think you probably already know what I'm going to say, but everyone else does. So it's Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction. That's probably the most influential album on me early on in my career.
What was it about it?
Everything about it. Everything about it. I remember I actually back then I used to have to shop for CDs that had the exclamation mark sticker on them. Explicit lyrical content, and if it looked dangerous on the outside, I knew it was something that I wanted to get involved with and listen to. I remember seeing this cross with the skulls of the different characters, and I just thought this looks fucking badass. Yeah. So I bought that, and then I looked at. I was reading the lyrics. I was looking at the photo. It's got photos of them all live, all their aviators. They look like the coolest people I had ever seen in my life, and the music. I think Steven Adler's playing the drummer. I think Steven Adler's playing on that. Is absolutely out of this world. Obviously, from a drummer's perspective, back then I was trying to listen to and learn from everything I could. And his feel is unbelievable. He was a heavy rock drummer with a real groove, with a real like funky element to his playing. And I thought that was fantastic. So I've tried to I think I sort of absorbed that early on, and I try to emulate that kind of thing. Yeah, just absolutely fantastic. Obviously, the songs are amazing, absolutely amazing. And Paradise City. I remember because I didn't make the connection. I saw Paradise City, the video, when I was younger than that, and I never did make the connection. I saw this blonde guy with his arms above his head, slamming down on the drums for Paradise City, and they were playing in a stadium. But I remember I saw that at a friend's house because he had MTV, and I didn't. Anyway, so later on, I was like, that is the coolest thing I've ever seen. I want to do that. And then later on, I found out what the song was and who the drummer was. And I realized that I made the connection when I bought the album. Nice. And I was like, so I wanted to be a rock drummer because of that scene. And then later on, I learned it was Steven Adler. And I listened to the rest of the album. I was like, I love this guy. So that's it. Yeah.
Nice. Ben, do you have one?
Yeah, apologies again for coming and going. We're doing some artwork now, so there's paint and glue and glitter just going everywhere at the minute.
That sounds like the ideal scene to leave unattended.
Yeah, so my album is a live album called If You Want Blood, You Got It by AC/DC.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is because I probably about the age of 14, 15 discovered this album through an uncle of mine, Uncle Brian, who's probably been to more of our gigs than anyone else. And when I discovered, it wasn't this album he put me onto, actually. I think it was Blow Up Your Video, or yeah. But it wasn't. But I discovered. I then listened to. He introduced me to AC/DC, and listening to a different album, I ended up with If You Want Blood. And I got this album because it has a guitar going through someone's stomach. So, like Will, I was looking for. I knew I liked AC/DC, and I was looking for something that looked really gnarly. Like, oh, it's going to be their most gnarly stuff. And that album, if you put that album on and listen to it start to finish, it is just the most ferocious piece of rock music after rock music you've ever heard. Riff Raff, Hell Ain't a Bad Place to Be. I've got it here. Bad Boy Boogie, The Jack, Problem Child, Whole Lot of Rosie, the list goes on. And it's just ferocious. It's got that ferocious energy about it. Bond's vocals, Phil Rudd's drums, the guitars, the bass part's just incredible.
I was going to say,
when that group of people play together, they generate an energy that is unique and very special. I think they do simple things really well and with such energy. That's my album. Jamie, what about you?
Well, Will's kind of stole my thunder there, because I was going to say Appetite as well, but I think it's still the most influential album on me as a person, musically, because I remember same thing as Will. I kind of had this idea in my head of what rock music sounded like, and I knew what I was looking for, but I hadn't. It was kind of like, I remember the first time I heard something like, I think it would have been Sweet Child of Mine on a compilation album, and I just remember the intro and thinking, that's what the sound of rock guitar is, and that's what I've been looking for. And then I kind of got into Guns that way, and I remember getting the Appetite for Destruction album, and it was just nothing I'd ever heard before. It actually took me about 3 or 4 listens to get into it, because I just had no idea what I was hearing. And it was like, eventually you kind of get to know the characters, the songs are so strong, and I think the songs are massively underrated in terms of how they're written, and until you have to actually learn them or try and get through them as a bass player or a guitarist or even as a singer, like you don't realize how well constructed these songs were for a bunch of guys that kind of purported to be like street urchin rock and roll band. They're just so sophisticated, how they write the songs, how they put them together, how they arrange the parts, how they arrange the harmonies, how they arrange the vocal melodies. They're just madly clever. And I remember, like, again, like, for me, it was the drum sound as well. It's like the best drum sound on any rock album that I've ever heard still. It's just huge. And I heard this thing was watching the other day, a video of Steven Adler playing Now, and he's still got his groove. And people that argue, there is no argument Steve Adler was the best drummer Guns N' Roses ever had for what they were doing. I don't care how good Matt Sorum is. He's not the right drummer for them compared to what Adler was doing. But I remember we used to chat about that a lot, Will, when we were when we would go recording, we'd sit down and sort of try and work out these, because where Steven Adler and Duff McKagan kind of have these interactions, the way that they planned the fills out. They knew what fills they were going to play and what was going to go over the top. It was so groovy and so well thought out. We used to sit down and plan. We'd plan like, right, this is going to be the fill. This is what the bass line's going to do over the fill. And it was like we were always aiming for that kind of Appetite groove that we could try and get that interaction going. So I know I'm copping out by saying the same thing as you, but my number one would be that. So I think, sorry for jumping on, but just from a different perspective. So I think what we should do is every week we should have a new album. We should do 10 each, because obviously we'll get some different answers then. But let's try and do that every week and see how we get on. Right, I don't want to kind of go on massively too long, but I think what we'll do is we'll get Paddy on another week if you want to do one, Paddy.
Sure, man.
We'll do
amazing.
Should we do an after hours one where we can cut loose a little bit more?
Yeah, get some beers.
Cool.
Whiskey.
Nice. I think what I want to do while we're here is I want to say next week I want to get on Tom Rajowski from Madhaven, because he's doing a project at the moment where I want to try and get him involved, talking about what he's doing, this musicians uniting for the isolation thing. There's a really good version of Times Like These he's put out with his project. You're on that, Will, and so am I. And yeah, so I want to try and get that up there. But we'll get Tom on to talk about what else he's planning as well. So we'll think of another theme for next week too. We'll put the times out on Facebook and make sure everyone knows where they are. Paddy's disappeared. Okay, while it's starting to...
Can I ask a song-related question?
Yeah, go.
So the track that we're releasing this week is called Hell Ride, yeah?
Yeah, indeed, yeah.
That's Hell Ride? Roughly, do you know, because I wasn't around for obviously the writing of that one. I wasn't around. I don't think I even recorded on that one, did I? I think that's a machine.
Yeah.
Is that a machine?
That's a machine.
I can't remember.
The same thing,
what
man.
Session, what sort of time? Thank you. What sort of timeline are we talking?
I need to drop off.
Paddy, you're going, are you?
I need to drop off. Love you all. Have a great weekend.
Take care. We'll talk to you
See
soon,
you, man.
man. Cheers for joining.
See you. Bye. Bye.
Bye. Yeah, sorry, Will. Go on.
So when was that? When was that done? What sort of timeline are we looking at? Was that between House on Fire and oh my God, I can't remember. Hammered Again, or was that after Hammered Again?
No, it was after Hammered Again, because it was one of the ones for the album that was up for consideration when we made the record, Beast Reality. It was actually interesting. It was, I think it was either. I think it was at the time when Ben had broken his finger, and it was really weird writing that, because we couldn't just write normally because Ben couldn't play. So we had to record like 4 bars at a time, and because that was all he could hold the pick for, because he couldn't hold his pick normally, and there was certain techniques and styles he couldn't pick in, so we had to record the guitars. I think either some of those ones I recorded the riffs and then Ben would like either do the solos bit by bit, or he'd record the riffs bit by bit over the top, or some of the rhythm guitars on there were me. But it made us really think about, like, because we couldn't rush into stuff. Like usually we'd record like whole structures really, really quick, but because Ben's finger wasn't working, we couldn't do that. So what it actually made us do was think about how the songs were constructed, and think about where we could put changes and things that we maybe wouldn't have done before. And actually you can hear this in an example of this one, where we play around with a few tricks, like with key modulating and stuff, especially for the guitar solos and stuff like this, and thinking about how the sections go. In fact, I definitely remember this one would have been when his hand was knackered. Yeah, we did a whole bunch at that time. And so yeah, it actually, that really affected the process, because we had to look at the details of what we were doing, rather than like just bash out, you know, a 4-chord song structure and a riff and 2 riffs and then go, yeah, let's shout all over it. So Hell Ride was one of those where Ben had this really cool riff, and I think the reason we never released it was we just felt that it was too happy. It didn't fit with the other songs on the record. So it wasn't that we didn't think the song was good, it was just that it didn't fit in that bunch. Because I remember you said recently we should record it for the next album. Like you brought it up and said, like, why don't we do that song? So it's definitely like one that we've always really liked, but it was struggling to find a slot for it where it would fit.
Yeah. Cool.
So that was that. Yeah. Yvonne just said Paddy was very quiet. I don't know if she meant like he didn't talk much, or he was just his mic was quiet. But he's been in and out of work calls this morning, so I think he was keeping an eye on meetings he had to be in and stuff like that. So we will definitely get him back to do an evening one and cut loose a little bit more. So yeah, boys, unless there's anything else anyone wants to add.
No, it's cool. It's all cool.
We had a request to see Ivy's artwork. If you want to show us what she's been up to.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Can you see that?
Nice. Look at that. Can you just move the camera a little bit? Like we only got a corner of it. Wow. That looks amazing. Nice one, Ivy.
Okay. Here's some more.
Nice.
Oh yeah.
Look at that. Can we see the workstation? You sent me a video of it the other day.
Workstation.
Look at that.
Yeah, and got this cat
Ah, wow. Nice.
painted.
Very
I mean,
good.
here's us
Talented.
pretending
Look
to
at that.
be musicians and artists, and meanwhile there's actual genius going on in the background.
Yeah,
You know.
exactly. The genius of the...
Yeah.
Yeah. Zdravko thinks
Right, I'll
is a nice
catch you
bit.
later, guys.
Right, we'll be off then. So, Ben, I'll catch up with you later. Well done, boys.
See you later. See you later, everybody that's watching.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you, everybody that's watching.
Take it
And we'll
easy.
see you soon.
Yeah, see you next
See
week.
you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Nice. So, Will, you're still there. Shall we play the track out one more time? And
Yeah.
I'm just gonna flip over to the artwork. So you did the artwork for the new record. We're gonna put the link up for the new track, which is going to be on the same SoundCloud link as last week. Will's going to upload that the second that we finish, and then you're going to be able to go download that for free. Obviously, the PayPal link's there if you want to donate for the next record. So, Will, shall we play them out with some more Hell Ride, and then we'll all catch up next week?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, dude. Take care, man. I'll see you next week.
Laters.
There.